This is just the beginning.
Hi, I'm Fabricio Drumond, Chief Revenue Officer at Axios. I'm also a great consumer of news and information from Axios. And today we're bringing to you Activate with Axios, an event where we're gonna bring conversations from several of our team members to share some of the best practices that we've seen and how brands have been making positive impact through the storytelling done across all of our properties. And I'm going to start with a conversation with someone that I start my days and finish my days talking on a daily basis, the co-founder and CEO of Axios, Jim VandeHei. Jim?
Fab, it's good to be here.
Jim, let's start at the highest level. Why Axios?
We started Axios because there's a big problem. There's like a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of mistrust. And we thought the antidote to that was we need to be able to deliver news of consequence that people can have faith in, that's written clinically, doesn't have all the emotion, doesn't have the polarized language around it, is written by people who have true subject matter expertise and who are super respectful of your time, that want to deliver information as quickly as possible. Because all of us, anybody watching this, you and I, our minds are just hit with so much information. We want good information that we can trust, delivered more efficiently. That's what Axios does.
That's great. We talk a lot at Axios about having a clinical approach, which when we think about the world that brands live in, and especially as it relates to brand suitability, that's a super important element that we actually help them navigate. Walk us through how do we go about determining if a topic is worthy of our audience's time?
Yeah, but the way we think about it is, will this topic, will this story help somebody get smarter on something that's going to shape the world over the next 5 to 10 years? It tends to be aimed at people who are professionals, people who need and care about information to do their job. And we hire those subject matter experts who really understand these topics so that they can help you navigate topics that you might not have as much time to spend to become an expert on. The reason that matters to the advertiser is we've put a lot of thought into making sure that the experience on Axios is as effective for them as it is for the reader. We want advertisers to feel like this is a safe, well-lit space where they can reach with real precision people who are influencers, people who are activists, people who are big decision makers in their local community, in business, or in governance.
And another element that you touch on frequently with us, it's on delivering trustworthy information. And which is a critical element for brands, especially as they see contextual alignment. When you started Axios, one of the key pillars was being audience first. So I'd like to hear, how has these last 4 years evolved on that, and including this recent commitment on the Axios Audience Bill of Rights?
Yeah, we have a Bill of Rights. You can look at it on our website. But the idea is we want this place to be totally transparent. We want you to understand why we cover different topics, how we cover different topics, because we want you to trust us. Like, ultimately, the only value that we can bring is if you have trust. Why we bring exceptional value to an advertiser is because people feel like it's a trustworthy space. And so you do that by thinking about the user first, thinking about, is this something somebody needs to know? Is it delivered in a beautiful, clean, efficient way? And then when they see an advertisement, is it done in a way that's really effective for the advertiser, but ideally really engaging for the user too? And people don't think enough about user experience. Some of the best products in your life are things that are designed for you so that you love it. Like, why do you love that iPhone? Because so much attention was put into the detail of it. We put that much attention into the detail of our website, our app, our newsletters, our podcasts, our Axios on HBO show.
One of the segments we're going to host today, Jim, is to talk about our latest venture, Axios Local. Why local matters?
Listen, I think that one of the easiest places to restore trust between the media and readers is at the local level, because people live there and they know if you're getting it right. Politics, technology, some of these topics can feel so distant. And so I think to be honest, I think they're more ripe for manipulation or for propaganda or distrust or polarization. Whereas when you're talking about local topics, that's where people live and breathe and work and move. And we feel like there's a real opportunity to help people get smarter, faster about their community using all those audience first principles that have worked so well for us on the national level. And as somebody who started at the Brilliant News in local journalism, I care passionately, and this company cares passionately about, can we be part of the solution to restore really high quality coverage in local areas, which again, by the way, is really good for advertisers when we get it right. Those are hard people to reach, hard to reach with precision, hard to reach in a place that is clean and well lit and safe. And so when we're at our very best, and I think Axios really is at its very best right now, we're delivering that. We're delivering it for the reader, you're delivering it for the advertiser. Those two things work in synchronicity. You have a nice company.
Thanks, Jim, for taking the time to talk to us today. We will now hear from John Otto, who run our client partnerships team, and go deeper on how we help brands bring their stories to life with Axios.
Thanks so much, Fabricio. Look, as you just heard, Axios has been working with brands to better understand their story and their messaging since launch. The reality is great journalism offered to the public for free requires a great advertising business. This is the single best place to share your message in a precise format with measurable impact to the right audience. And think about it another way. How are you as a brand investing in editorial excellence, in trusted, credible content? Because we know our audience, smart professionals, executives, policymakers, they're all seeking out that credibility today to help them be better in their jobs or stay ahead on some of the transformative trends that Jim just mentioned. So our approach to working with advertisers is one of true partnership. We've hired subject matter experts with a singular focus on delivering engaging content in the same way our newsroom does. And so what we've seen over the last few years are some common challenges from our partners. Today, we wanted to dig into those challenges. And so we thought it best if we distilled down to 5 different scenarios that we're helping many of our partners navigate. Now, I can't think of 2 better people with all the solutions than Jimmy Shelton, our head of Axios Studio, and Kristen Burkhalter, our head of events and content strategy.
How's it going?
Thanks, John. Hi, Jimmy.
Before we start, can I just mention and call out how great my shot looks? I got light coming from here. I'm like really looking good. Big fan.
Thanks for one-upping us.
I had to. I couldn't help myself. Anyway, all right. Sorry. Continue.
All right. We're on the clock here. So let's start with brand equity and corporate reputation. Jimmy, the most common question we heard in 2020 and continues into this year, how does my brand stand out in a safe and credible way?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a super important question in 2020 and continues to be important in 2021. I think brands have always needed to get their messaging in front of the right people, but now it's just as important that they are in front of the right people in the right way, saying the right thing, about any given topic. I think to talk about the idea of credibility, that's fairly straightforward. Just align yourself with trusted, smart, credible journalism, like at Axios. The idea of safety is about staying nimble and flexible with your messaging. And I think my team is here to help guide that flexibility. In 2020, we told our partners not to hide from the news, but to embrace it and quickly. I think there was definitely a moment last year where in what felt like an instant, the entire world was connected. So to talk about anything else was a mistake. And so, we are here to help our partners make that decision quickly. We act as consultants. We understand what our audience will care about at any given moment. And so, we work with brands to, provide that guidance. We do research to make sure we're giving the right guidance, to make sure we know what we're talking about. And I think that research is important because it can, sometimes inform how our partner communicates, but also inform even what they say, which I think is really fascinating.
Yeah, marrying research to media strategy. Love that last point. Can you talk a little bit more about how we're bringing some of this research to life?
Yeah, totally. I think it really depends on sort of the experience that we're trying to provide or understand. If we want to know what's going to engage our audience, we can ask them, which I know seems simple, but it's really effective. Just ask what will engage them. If we want to know what messaging or what language, what word will work best, we can message test and facilitate a focus group for you. I think something that's kind of similar, but a little bit different that we're doing right now is we are in the middle of an original study of the entire energy industry to understand if sustainable practices are good for business. That will be beneficial to our audience and our partner. And it's that balance of what is meaningful, what is valuable to them is where we focus our efforts to understand how we as a team can make ourselves smarter so that we can do that better.
Makes Makes a lot of sense. It's actually a great segue into the next challenge we identified. And that's the view from the top. So just saw some new research from Stagwell and Harris poll. And get this, half of Americans have changed their buying habits due to a CEO's actions. It's no longer, is it just value to shareholders, but value to stakeholders, something that the Business Roundtable has really led the charge on. And our own CEO, Jim VandeHei, he's written a lot about the challenges CEOs are facing. CEOs are America's new politicians, as he put it. So it's a pivotal issue. Kristen, from your perspective, like how are we helping executives navigate this today?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, John. Like this trend of more trust in CEOs and politicians is incredibly important for brands to pay attention to. 2019 saw the highest turnover rate, I think, of CEOs since 2008, meaning that for 2020, we had the highest number of new CEOs dealing with a global pandemic and an election. And I think something that really helps, like it does for politicians, we see this day in and day out, is a personal connection, being able to read, see, hear thoughts, from this person can be extremely powerful and influential. So events provide an opportunity and a space for you to speak to an engaged audience on worthy topics that we're both obsessing about.
Right. And so how is this actually working in practice, though?
I figured you would ask me that. We love this. This is really where the fun starts and the creativity starts to bubble up. We will work to get your executive into our event. We position them in the middle segment of our event, and we call this sponsored segment a view from the top. We take the time to work with your brand, your executive, your team to make sure this is a meaningful conversation and that it also fits in with the discussion at hand. I think in 2020, we maybe heard from 50 different executives who were standing up, making announcements, unveiling research, and really doing what I think is the most important during this time, being a great leader during these interesting times. And like Jimmy, I think, said it earlier, brands should align with good journalism, but they also need to be relevant to this good journalism. And our editorial events bring that together. We bring together important people around important issues, and we give your executive an opportunity and a platform to influence.
I think you know what my next question is going to be, because we're fielding it all the time. And that's, what's the turnout like for these types of programs?
Yeah, and it's important, right? So we are seeing thousands of viewers across our 5 platforms. It's exciting. I think in 2020, we saw 22 to 25,000 for each and every event. And while that is very important for some topics and for some brands, other brands are coming to us and saying that they want a more intimate conversation, an opportunity to engage and talk about a solutions-oriented conversation around a smaller table. So if I can, I just want to tell you about one other quick event format, and that's what we call expert voices. This is an opportunity to bring together CEOs, politicians, thought leaders, academics, experts, small business owners, and have brands and these really important, smart people interact directly around our table or virtual table. And to give you a quick example, at the end of 2020, we had a large tech client come to us and ask us to convene a roundtable, a couple of roundtables on small business recovery. Their goal was to have a seat at the table and be alongside these key influencers. So this was a ton of fun. We created a really custom 3-part event series, and we had a ton of success. We were able to bring 12 elected officials, 3 mayors, multiple CEOs, and really important small business voices around this event format.
Got it. All right. So I'm going to summarize real quick from what I'm hearing here. Regardless of format, whether we're doing large scale public events or intimate roundtables, we're organizing the right formats for a meaningful conversation, critically important. And I think what we're starting to hear from clients more on, they're thinking about this in the right way. How do we extend that conversation beyond it just being in the moment, though?
Yeah, and I think that's something that Kristen and I have thought a lot about. Like, how do we take that conversation, that thought leadership experience, and bring it to the website or bring it to the internet, so where it can live forever? I think there's a lot of different ways that we can do that for our partners. We can do articles, we can do visuals, we can do video. But what we want to work with our partners to really understand how they want that messaging to come across, what their goals are, so that we can prioritize the right medium and the right format to do it in the best way. I think to call out something that we're excited about, a new format that takes the conversation dynamic and brings it to an article. It's a simple Q&A format, but similar to what I was saying earlier, we understand our audience and we know what questions they would want answered about any given topic. And so we ask them, we prompt our partners, and we get their responses, and we format them into an experience, a readable, consumable, digestible experience that our audience is used to. And then we put it on the internet, and it's there forever until the internet doesn't exist. It's there. And it's simple, but very effective.
All right. Well, we got to move on to the next scenario here. I know we've been talking a lot about contextual alignment for brands within relevant editorial content, right? But we have to be honest here. It's such a crowded space. So many different initiatives, oftentimes around the same issues that are being announced. If we even would just rewind a year, everyone was talking about the pandemic in some way, or the future of work in that context. We also saw huge commitments, and rightfully so, to DEI initiatives is another example. But the question is how do brands differentiate their own initiatives, especially when they're in the same industry?
John, I can jump in here. Sorry, Jimmy. But I think, from my perspective, it's about timing and smart activations. Like you said, it's becoming harder and harder to stand out. Brands should be seeking out these meaningful moments. And we have those. We have standout editorial experiences. We have custom events, studio offerings, and really that's only scratching the surface of what we can do.
Definitely. It's such a good point. One of my favorite things we talk about is our read, watch, listen approach to Axios content. We're talking about this internally all the time, and it's whether it's around media or more complex issues we cover or major tentpole news events. But format matters, repetition matters, and that's no different for our advertisers. Some of the most successful campaigns we've had so far have been when they're amplifying earned media strategies with paid distribution. So we're talking about where brands should be present. But Jimmy, tell us a little bit more about how they can show up once there.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, we focus on the specifics. I think brands invest in specific areas for specific reasons. I don't think anyone invests that amount of time and that amount of money for things they don't truly understand. And so, of course, different brands are going to talk about similar things because these similar things are important. Different brands are going to address them differently. And that's where we focus our efforts, to truly understand the impact that different brands are having, to truly understand how they did this thing and why they did this thing. And then what they did influences what we can create. If they are trying to make broad, sweeping changes across an entire industry, we can build a big, beautiful web experience that breaks it all down. If they, want to talk about a specific person in a specific place doing a specific thing, we can film that and show that and bring our audience to that experience and to those efforts. And so really, it's been a common theme throughout everything I've said, but it's about what our partners are doing specifically that guides what we do for them.
All right, we're getting the hook here. I think we're going to have to leave it there. We got through 3 of the 5 scenarios. It's not bad. I think there's plenty more for us to cover. For everyone out there, if you're interested to learn more, please reach out. We're always happy to help. Jimmy and Kristen, always appreciate your insights. And I think we're going to have to do this again.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks, John. Thanks, Kristen.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Jimmy.
All right, so before we move on, I just want to leave you all with a few big takeaways that I was able to jot down from this chat. And, the first thing is for any brand, regardless of message, aligning with trustworthy, credible journalism will always prove out and deliver results. The second one is there's more pressure than ever on CEOs to lead with vision, but communicate with authenticity. And we're supporting that with engaging event formats, but also making sure that content lives on beyond the moment. And the third one is Axios delivering content to audiences through a read, watch, listen experience. It's a big issue. And our business team is as intentional at getting smart professionals to engage with your brand's message as our newsroom is in their clinical approach to what we choose to cover. And so now to hear a little bit more about this coverage, I want to turn it to Editor-in-Chief Nick Johnson and Executive Editor Sara Kehaulani Goo to tell you what's hot from the newsroom in 2021.
Thanks, John. I'm Nick Johnston, the editor-in-chief of Axios. I'm here with our executive editor, Sara Goo. Sara, what are the exciting things you're looking forward to in this year?
Okay, so much, but I'll tell you about 4. Number 1, audio. Listening to news has only accelerated during the pandemic, and we started off this year with a hit podcast, How It Happened, based on Jonathan Swann's amazing reporting on the last days of Trump. But there's a lot more seasons that we're planning next. Not to mention, we have 2 daily podcasts, Axios Today and Recap. Number 2, Get Smart. This is our new video series helping people level up their understanding of topics you hear about in the news, but maybe don't fully understand. So examples would be 5G, vaccines, cryptocurrency. Through a series of short videos, our journalists help lend their expertise to help you understand. Third, Hard Truths. That is our year-long commitment to systemic racism. A year ago, with George Floyd's death, of course, our nation really had this racial reckoning over injustice, and that is not over. So we are committing to unpack that month by month. And finally, local. Of course, we started this year launching in 5 cities with bringing smart brevity and local journalism to communities that are underserved. And I feel like there's only room for growth there. Okay, so that's a lot. What about you?
The big thing at the top of my mind this year is the big thing that's been at the top of my mind for all 5 years of Axios. What are the huge trends that you have to understand to figure out the 21st century, like climate change, like China, like space? That's still an animating subject for a lot of our newsletters. But also, we're looking at the post-COVID, post-Trump world. How is America changing in politics, in the economy, in business, in healthcare? There's a lot of short-term, fast changes happening in the next year in America, and so we're launching a lot of new products into that. So what kind of new products? We've got an afternoon business newsletter, Axios Closer, launching early this year, looking at all the biggest business trends and stories right out of the markets every afternoon. We're expanding our coverage of Silicon Valley, launching a Saturday version of Pro Rata with the news and zeitgeist from the deals and deal makers out in the Valley. We're looking at Axios Gaming. This is an awesome idea, looking at a massive industry that I think is woefully undercovered. It's bigger than Hollywood. It shapes the culture. It shapes the economy. That'll be starting soon. And then we're digging into looking at new audiences. We want to launch a new product that explores the Latino community, issues on both sides of the border, a partnership which we hope to kick off in a couple of months.
That sounds awesome. Okay, so of all those things, what is your BFD for 2021?
I'm actually going to pick something that's not even on that first list. We're looking at a new kind of newsletter that looks at the short-term changes that are happening right now. What the pandemic did was accelerate all these trends in how we live, how we work, how we eat, how we travel. How is all those trends reshaping the nation in the next year? We're looking at a new product in the coming months that will explore just those short-term trends upending the nation. And Sara, what's your top thing for the year?
Okay, hard to pick, but I have to say local, because as journalists, we all know that the newspapers that have folded in local communities has really accelerated. Journalists have been laid off, and so there's a real void there, and I think a real need. This is where journalists build trust, and this is where communities need local information to help them live their daily lives. So we started with 5 cities, but I think I'm so excited about the growth to come this year.
That's a perfect segue for our next panel with Yolanda Brigoni, our head of communications, talking to 2 of our local journalists, Emma Way and Ben Montgomery.
Axios Local is bringing smart brevity to a city near you. Local will deliver scoops, offer sharp insights, and curate the best local reporting. Our events, called Smart Take, will help readers better understand the most consequential news unfolding in their own backyards. With Local, we focus on what matters in your community.
Thanks, Nick and Sara. We will end today's discussion with a spotlight on Axios Local. I'm joined by 2 of our local superstars, Emma Way from Axios Charlotte and Ben Montgomery from Axios Tampa Bay. Emma, let's start with you. Why local and why now?
To me, Axios Local is all about bringing this national style of smart brevity to home base. People tend to skim national news stories. They might not have as much to do about their day-to-day life. But local, they read every word. There's also just more trust at that local level, and it's a good place to build trust. I think that kind of goes back to the Axios manifesto and the Bill of Rights Jim and the founders laid out at the beginning of the year. We're accountable to our audience, and nowhere is that more true than in local journalism when they're literally your neighbors. Ben, what would you say about you and your folks in Tampa Bay?
Well, I think it's important to establish the fact that we are not here to replace or usurp any existing legacy media. We are trying to point our readers to the best of local journalism that's done on a daily basis. When people open their phones first thing in the morning and start to connect with their day, we want to be giving them the most important news items that will help them navigate their world in the Tampa Bay region. And so that's what we aim to do.
So we're now less than a month away from our launch of Axios Local. Ben, Axios Tampa Bay has doubled their subscribers from 15 to 30,000 in the first week alone. What has been the most exciting part of this launch to you?
Well, we're thrilled about that, first of all. And those numbers have even gone up some since then. We're now at about 36,000 subscribers. So it seems like day after day, we pick up a few thousand subscribers, which is great, right? It says to me that this is how people want to get their news. And we're filling that void for them. Not to mention the anecdotal emails that Celine and I get on a daily basis from readers who really dig the newsletter. These people who are engaged, who are reading it all the way through. Look, it takes about 4 minutes on average to read this newsletter, but it should equip you with what you need to get around, to get through your day. So we're stoked about that.
Great. And I'm going to ask you the same question. With 60,000 subscribers and almost 250,000 followers on Instagram, what does Axios Charlotte have for your readers?
Well, for us, there's just a ton of excitement. I mean, our subscribers have also grown. We're across that 70,000 mark now. So what that says to us is that readers are hungry for more data journalism, more smart graphics, more events. We cover everything from smart lifestyle, new restaurants opening, to local politics and coronavirus news, all in that smart brevity style. So we're just sort of trying to give readers everything they could possibly want to start their day right there in one newsletter, like Ben said, in less than 5 minutes.
So this is a question for both of you. Looking ahead towards the end of 2021, how do you see Axios Local growing and expanding in the year to come? Emma?
Well, I think we've kind of seen it become this new town square, like newsletters, Instagram. It's where readers are on a daily basis. They're on their phones, and we're meeting them right there. And that's kind of expanded how we as journalists can think about engaging with our readers. And I think that's really exciting.
And what do you think, Ben?
Events. I have really enjoyed Axios's virtual events, which, there's a steady stream of, but I cannot wait for the day when we can all get together in person, when it's safe, and sit on a bar stool and talk about what our future might look like, to bring together the community, the connected, smart members of the community, to learn from one another. And I'm excited about that.
Well, Emma and Ben, I just want to thank you so much for hopping on and joining me today. And we're so thrilled to have you and the rest of the Axios Local team leading the charge. To our guests today, thank you so much for joining us. And to subscribe to our local newsletters, visit axios.com/local. If you're interested in learning more about advertising with Axios Local, please visit axios.com/local/advertise. Thanks so much.